Welcome to Changing Healthcare, an exploration of people and brands that are disrupting healthcare for the better. I'm excited today to be sitting here with Mark Holland. Mark is the founder of ChooseHealth. This is a virtual lab testing platform that enables people to send samples and get lab results and monitor key biomarkers about their health and really see how their lifestyle is impacting those markers and how they can improve themselves from the inside out. This is really good stuff, so I'm excited to learn more about it. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Patrick. Happy to be here.
You bet, man. So can you give us a little background about yourself? What inspired you to start ChooseHealth?
Yeah, absolutely. So my professional background has been in nutrition and supplementation. So we had a business that we built over a 10-year period where we were essentially developing medical foods. We found a couple of niche formulas and ran clinical trials to prove that those formulas worked basically as marketed and as described. So built that business over 10 years and moved it on to a much bigger entity. But through that whole experience and really understanding nutrition and supplementation, part of the challenge with that whole space is that the onus is not really on the company to do the science. So the FDA guidelines are obviously, if you want to market a product, you have to have the science behind it, but it's self-regulatory. So it's really only if you get to a certain size or if you get in legal issues that they call back and say, well, have you got the science behind your product? So for us, going down the science route, it was obviously a huge overhead for us, and a lot of our competitors were coming out with similar products and they would undercut our pricing, and they didn't have any science but making the same claims. So through that whole process, and obviously spending a lot of money on the science, I really developed, I suppose, a want to help consumers, because consumers are the real, they're the ones that really suffer through the marketing of companies that don't have products that work, essentially, and the 99% of the success in selling supplements is how loud you can shout, and is your marketing nicer or fancier? Are you engaging an audience? But it's a lot of it is noise. So ChooseHealth was really about helping customers understand through quantitative testing whether products were actually working for them or not. So we developed ChooseHealth as we looked at the whole diagnostic space, the whole testing space, and said, so I sat 4 functional doctors around the table and kind of asked them the question, if you could only track 5 markers of your health for the rest of your life, what would they be and why? And so typical physicians, they came back with about 15 markers. And so we sat down again and narrowed it down to the 6 markers that we have on our test today. And the whole idea was to 80-20 your healthcare, and what's the most cost-effective and efficient way to answer the question, am I healthy on the inside? So we basically built that into the kit that exists today. We have 6 markers tested at home, takes 10 minutes, and we've built out a whole mobile experience where customers can, one, understand. So the whole idea is that we educate people on what the basic kind of science says around the 6 markers that we have, which are cholesterol ratio, we measure insulin sensitivity, we measure visceral fat, oxidative stress, average blood sugar, and inflammation. So we educate people on what the markers are, why they're relevant for everybody, and these are, the physicians kind of mapped it out as these were the core markers that were most heavily linked to long-term health, so lifespan and preventing the onset of chronic disease. So the second layer then within the mobile experience is that we provide people obviously access to their results, but their results related to specific lifestyle factors like dieting, like exercise, and like drinking and smoking and other lifestyle choices. So people can test, see what the science says behind different diet types, like kind of low carb dieting or intermittent fasting, see what the actual science says behind those specific diet types and their markers. They can decide which markers they want to focus on, see which lifestyle factors potentially could have the most effect on those markers, and then we help them with a recurring tracking product at a low cost that they can obviously track their way to optimal health. So be running kind of N of 1 experiments on their own with whatever they're deciding to do on a monthly or quarterly basis.
Great. Okay. So if I understand correctly, they're monitoring their biomarkers through the lab results that they've already gotten, the samples that they've sent in, but they can also enter, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, what they're eating, and how much exercise they're getting, that sort of thing.
So we don't collect any information, and we don't ask them to input any information. We try to just be the quantitative source where somebody can track and see trends over time.
Gotcha. Okay. So, one of the things that we've heard a lot about, in interviews with different practitioners is, that patient compliance can be tricky, especially for somebody who's somewhat new to functional medicine. They're coming from a more traditional space where, um, let's just say they may be a little bit more used to instant gratification, and functional medicine, taking that approach, really means being a lot more involved and more active in managing your own health. And keeping people on track is a challenge. And I could see where something like this could really help a lot.
Yeah, well, so our founding advisor physicians really built this as obviously a means to track the most important markers of internal health, but also to help physicians with compliance. So that old challenge for a physician of, they run a panel of markers and there's a very clear output of, okay, we think because maybe your blood sugar level is high or your insulin sensitivity is an issue, that you should go on a low carb diet. And typically those recommendations are coupled with maybe a couple of products that the patient might take. But I mean, they're not seeing that patient for 6 months to a year, and it's very difficult to monitor and track progress outside of annual visits. So for us, I mean, we've built a low cost way for physicians to have their patients testing on a monthly or a quarterly basis at home in between visits, so they can actually track the progress of their advice and suggestions, and ideally would help their patients kind of comply more effectively with the suggestions they're given.
Oh, absolutely. And I can only imagine this has got to really fuel their motivation, right? And they actually can see tangible results that, what they're doing is making a difference. They're feeling better, and they're actually seeing evidence of that in the data, right?
Well, that's the exciting thing, is that you're giving people control. You're giving people real tangible feedback on their progress. So if someone takes the time, and dieting is not easy, and following exercise regimens is not easy, and cutting back on habits that you might have like smoking or drinking, these things are not easy. So giving people validation at a much shorter interval that these things are working for them is, that's what we try to provide. And it's really exciting to see the feedback from people on how excited and how encouraged they kind of feel through getting more regular feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just wondering too, if people are getting tested a bit more regularly, and instead of just the quarterly or annual checkup or whatever, does this enable practitioners to engage with their patients a little bit more in developing a strategy? It seems like this would allow a lot more room for them to to communicate more and work the plan a little bit more.
Yeah, like of the folks we've worked with, everybody is obviously unique in their style and how their patient management and communication structures and all the rest of it. But of the folks that seem to be getting the most value out of what we're doing, it is setting a plan and then having this as a tool in a workflow whereby, you know, a lot of the functional folks that you might have met and that I've met over the last while, a lot of them are moving to subscription models themselves, whereby they have a monthly check-in with their client, or they're basically on call, but they have a monthly subscription model with clients. So this is really a way to monitor remotely and to keep that engagement and to have, you know, as regular check-ins as they would like.
Right. And you know, just to address the elephant in the room, you know, that sort of remote check-ins are going to become a lot more critical in the weeks and months ahead, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a trend towards, obviously what's happened is expediting digital health dramatically. And so a lot of the telehealth providers and any platform or software that's integrating the practitioner patient relationship, and when I say integrating, I mean providing easier access for a patient to communicate with their physician and to get the resources they need. Of course what's happening now is going to speed that up dramatically, but yeah, I think the role that, or the place that we kind of fit into that mix is really facilitating tests remotely and
Right.
facilitating, essentially, we built the technology to API into any lab. We built the technology to API into any telehealth providers, and we're already integrated in a network of 1,000 physicians today. So I think building that out further and allowing physicians to have access to testing that they can trigger, both remote kind of triggering, as in
Hmm.
tests that can get shipped directly to the patient's home, but also tests that they can easily manipulate themselves and to just test what they deem to be the most important markers for their practice.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, it seems like something like this could be so critical now because I mean, you know, I've been reading about this, you know, quite a bit in recent days. You know, healthcare practitioners are I mean, working remotely is as new to them as it is for a lot of people like you and I who are, you know, working out of home offices right now. And so, you know, having these tools, anything that'll just sort of help bridge that gap a little, makes things a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people have been working on this for decades, so it's nothing new. But I think it's the adoption of remote kind of practice management tools and techniques. Like you'd have to assume that what's happening now is really gonna dramatically speed up the adoption cycle
Yeah.
for these kind of. I mean, I have many colleagues and friends that work on different applications in this space, and I mean, it is a slog to change existing workflows. It's a to try and, for anybody, for any of us. I mean, even trying to adapt to a work from home scenario, it's been challenging for everyone. So I think, like, old habits die hard, obviously. So I think this is really a critical time in the adoption cycle for these types of technologies and softwares and applications for physicians. But I think it benefits everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And you also mentioned earlier about, you know, how people uh, can use these results to really figure out quicker what works for them. Because I know that, like, you know, when it comes to functional medicine, sometimes there's a lot of experimentation, right? One approach may work great for one person, but not as much for another. For instance, like the keto diet or something similar to that. Um, Through the course of all this, what are some of the biggest surprises that either, you know, practitioners or consumers have really sort of discovered as they've used this technology?
So I think the most interesting thing from our perspective has been, we've tested hundreds of people at this point, and nobody has come back with optimal results across the board. As in, as in everybody has something that they can be improving.
Mhm.
And so trying to determine, one, where where are you on your health journey, and two, what can I do to improve? Because everybody has room for improvement is, I suppose, the most striking thing that we've realized. And if everybody has room for improvement and everybody is listening and taking health advice, I think that's one of the key challenges for health consumers today. Is there's so much noise out there, and for every piece of advice that I get, I can find 10 pieces of conflicting advice on the exact same topic online. So Dr. Google is obviously advancing healthcare, but at the same time, it's very difficult to quantify, because obviously everyone is unique. So there's no one size fits all in this space. So, but that's really what we're trying to do, is to help provide help provide objective feedback for people as they're trying different things. And
Right. Yeah, you bring up an important point. There is a lot of noise out there, and with something like this, where they can really invest in themselves and see what the result of a real personalized approach might be. It's easy to imagine some people out there that are like, think they have no health issues at all, right? It's like, I go to the gym regularly, I eat well, I've cut out gluten, we're all good there, but like you said, there's always, nobody's right where they need to be, right? There's always work to do. And this could really help them develop a more personalized plan that helps them get there.
yeah, that's our mission in a nutshell. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Mark, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. How can people learn more about you and about Choose Health?
Well, they can check out our site at www.choosehealth.io, and they can kind of read a bit more about our backgrounds and about the physicians involved in the tests that we offer today. And they can also find me on LinkedIn, Mark Holland at ChooseHealth,
Right.
and hello@choosehealth.io if anybody has any strange or wonderful things to talk about.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Take care.
Changing Healthcare is a production of Creative Side Marketing. Are you struggling to get trackable ROI from your website content? Trying to boost the number of quality leads for your sales team and provide an amazing customer experience? At Creative Side Marketing, we work with healthcare brands who believe in what's possible and help them disrupt for the better. Let us help you grow using inbound marketing and customer experience solutions. Visit us at creativesidemarketing.com to learn more.